I've added a green filter to the overall paint. I've done that using a bit of a 502 olive green, then with some enamel thinner on one side. On one side I use this stuff, and the other side just turpentine, about the same difference. Just need to clean it up a little bit with some more panel line washes. It did pool a little bit on the on some of the rivets, so that's sort of taken the olive drab effect away from it, and now it does look a bit more green. And the camera is starting to, it's playing up, but it is definitely a bit more green. And then I hit the tracks with an overspray of random Tamiya XF64 red brown and flat earth. So next on the list of things to do, pigments. Okay, so the aim is here, what I'm going to do is I'm using dark earth, Russian earth and rubble to give some different colours. So I'm going to mix these up together and then do lighter and darker versions of them. And the aim is to first hit the tracks with those pigments, let them soak in, and then to do the same with the upper run. So the upper run there, that's where the tracks sit upon there, so it makes sense for them to have the same dirt and dust build-up. So that'll be stage 1 of pigments, is doing that. Stage 2 is putting them on there. Stage 3 is actually putting them, is speckling and doing light layers, build up of lighter dirt, lighter dust in the lower hull, and of course along these protective fenders, and to do horizontal dusting in the crevices of the turrets and the top bits. Well, here it is. It's all finished. All complete. There we go. And the other side, upside down, Miss Jane. Okay. Before I show you the some better photos, I'll just go over what I did since the initial weathering stage. The most important step was adding a layer of pigments to the inside run up there. Okay. See the pigments inside there. Now that was basically done. Normally you do it laying the tank that way, but because the track runs are done this way, I laid the tank like this, had my pigment jars all set up, put them on dry, and then used the pigment fixer, which was this stuff, which seems to work well, and also experimented with Tamiya X20A, which also did a similar sort of job. So a couple of layers of those, some dark and light mixes. I used a custom mix based on what Mike Rinaldi recommends and one of my own concoctions. And yeah, so that laid down a base layer. And then the next stage was basically just integrating that with the tracks. So the tracks got hit with the same level of pigments. And then we went to town with the weathering on the horizontal surfaces with some layers of dust, splatter. So we got a splatter put through there and through there. That was achieved just dipping the pigments or the pigment brush and then just flicking it with a toothpick or something like that. The trick is just to add layer upon layer, smaller. There. Those drops at the back were far too big. I should have that was a bit of a mistake there. That's okay. And then at the front, I think I got the splatter better in that corner there and there as well. Anyway, you'll see the photos. It'll show it. the last thing I did basically was I worked on those exhausts, and I'm actually really happy with how they turned out. Now what I used was, or what I was planning to use, were Life Colours new, well not new, but new to me, rust colours. As you can see they're brand new because I didn't have them. So what did I use? Well, I really like Life Colour, so I used their figure paints. Look at that, flesh, base, shadow. They make a really nice rust patina. So that's what I did. And the trick with those, on those exhausts, is to use a small brush or a sponge and to lightly dab in, because if you remember the original layer was red Stynel Res, the primer, so I left that there, and I just put layer upon layer and blended in using a stippling motion the different rust colours. I also, you might be able to see on the top there, along the edges, I put a little bit of soot pigment to show it getting nice and black on top of the exhaust, and then also on the outlets with some soot there as well. I used a similar process on this exhaust at the back for the pipe, but the muffler itself was left in a mainly metallic sort of effect, and again hit with pigments. Apart from that, lots of streaking on the sides just to break up. The reference photos clearly showed that on the starboard side you had these very irregular leaks that came from the over lubrication of the tracks on these return rollers here. If we switch to the port side, you'll see that it's not as much. There is a small amount of leakage. That's all I could see in the reference photos. I added a few more effects there, of course, just to blend it all in. But yeah, I'm kind of happy with what I've got. There's always room for improvement. I experimented a lot with different washes and different rusting techniques, different chipping techniques. I'm not happy with some of the big blotches at the top there. They could be done better. The front I'm sort of happy with the effect. The back, like I said before, that was a little bit too blotchy. But yeah, there it is. Again, this was a really good test for me to try out all the different types of layers and techniques. For example, this was not varnished. There was no varnish used on this whatsoever. Even to seal in the decals, I think I skipped that and I just painted straight over them, and no problem. No silvering, no nothing. The decals worked fine. So yeah, I'll leave it at that, and you can have a look at the